Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Cut Through the Noise. Cut Through the Noise is the podcast that helps business leaders increase sales through elevated communications and marketing. I'm your host, Aisling O'Rourke, founder of The Communications Coach. Here at The Communications Coach, we work with business leaders and professionals who want to communicate with clarity, confidence, and credibility, and of course, authenticity. And I hope you are safe and well as you tune into today's episode, whether you're listening to us as a podcast or even on YouTube. We are diving deep on planning our marketing strategy for 2026 because let's be honest about it, unless you're working in corporate where you have a large number of employees and therefore will have a marketing team to hand, most smaller enterprises and businesses, and in particular solopreneurs, won't have had capacity to have planned our marketing strategies for 2026, even if we know that's exactly what we should have been doing in Q4 of 2025. And I'm not one for, wishing and wanting. And look, what's done is done. We're in January 2026 and we have to get cracking. So we want to break it down bit by bit. And I find it's really helpful to talk to others to see how they approach it, how they work with their own clients on it, and how do you break down that 12-month period? Because, 52 weeks, it's actually quite a lot of time when you think about it, and it can become overwhelming. So to do this, I'm joined by Denise Fay of Achieve Marketing. Hello, Denise Fay, and welcome to Cut Through the Noise.
Hey there, how's it going, Aisling?
Denise, you are, of course, of Achieve Marketing, and I'm going to get straight through it. And I know that, if you have a massive marketing team within your company, you will already have planned 2026 and you will know what you're doing and you'll be, kicking off the year with momentum. But for smaller businesses and even for people who are independent business leaders, they more than likely will not have had capacity towards the end of 2025. Like anybody that I spoke to said that 2025 for them was a year that was just on speed and it was pressurized, and they didn't feel towards the end of the year that they had the mental capacity to plan for 2026, and now are coming into 2026 not necessarily panicked, but feeling a bit overwhelmed and like they, regretting not having planned. So I thought for our chat today, we'd focus in on, let's forget about what we can't do anything about, and let's look ahead positively for the year ahead. And how should we, in an ideal world, we're sitting down now, it's January, it's the first quarter of the year, what do we need to do to start to get that marketing plan in place?
I think the first thing that we need to do is breathe. All right. Firstly, I want to tell people not to feel overwhelmed. This is January, so there's still like 360 odd days left in the year. So I think, if you haven't had the capacity to do it, that's totally fine. I think you just need to breathe, because once you lay out a plan and once you lay out like steps to get there, you'll be amazed at how quickly the momentum will come. So don't start the year with overwhelm. That'd be the first thing I would do.
So we have, now look, are you a plan for the 12 months or plan month by month kind of a person? I know some people believe in the 12-week year, the different approaches. So how do you approach your marketing for the year ahead?
Yeah, I'll do it on a 12-month basis.
Yeah.
First of all, what I will do is I'll review 2025. So I think, and then that's really what I'd like to get people to do. So first of all, don't be overwhelmed. But secondly, spend some time, even if it's just 2 hours, going back over some of the metrics, some of the thoughts, some of the feelings, some of the campaigns, things like that worked or didn't work in 2025. Because a lot of times particularly smaller business owners, as you said, didn't have the momentum, to do the plan in December. Is now in January and go, okay, right, let's actually, let's actually do this. This is what we need to do. Boom, 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 boom. But actually, if you just take a step back and go, actually, what we could have done or did do, or what we didn't do last year, that actually should be done. Because that way you'll see some things that you might have done that you never want to do again. And then you ask yourself, it's all about metrics and it's all about measuring, which I do I know I talk about my Fay wave, like, planning to marketing, but, and why is the yield? It's like, see what we've sown and all the rest. But if you take a chance and actually look back, you might discover some of the stuff that really worked last year, then double down on that. And then you might discover some of the stuff that just didn't work. So then just dump it. It makes life easier. Isn't Marketing is easy. It's not simple, but it's actually easy enough when you actually sit down to do it properly. And actually, I think the problem that a lot of people do is that they don't sit down to do it properly. I would take a 12-month approach. And once you've finished reviewing, right, what you've done or what has worked and what you really loved, really, and use your gut instinct on that one, what you really loved, I'd break out a calendar. So a whole 12 months ahead of you. So that's when you get to see, wow, there's so much opportunity in front of us. Then what I'd do is I'd schedule in all your little holidays, school holidays, all kind of holidays, because then you'll actually get to see the time that you have or you don't have when it comes to your marketing.
That's a really good point, because like I love to start off with scheduling and the holidays because it gives me something really positive to look
Totally.
forward to straight away. And also it breaks down the overwhelm because all of a sudden it doesn't feel like, oh my God, it's a whole year that I have to plan. It's like, yeah, but there's only like 6 weeks before I have to do this, or there's 7 weeks to do that. And it just, I think for me, it's that phrase, and I know it's a cliche, how do you eat the elephant bit by bit? But it breaks it down for me and it makes me feel a bit calmer about doing it all.
Absolutely. And I think it makes it more achievable, doesn't it? It makes it feel, you did ask the question, do I do it like for 12 months? I do it for the 12 months, but then I break it down into 3 months. So into 90 days. Andrew Dobbin has a fantastic results planner. I use that kind of per quarter to use to plan out my day or to plan out the month, plan out the 3 months even. And I use it from that. So then if there's a campaign that I'm looking to launch, or if there's a new offer, like a new podcast, then you'll actually break it down and go, okay, well, what needs to be done? If you're going to set objectives within the 3 months, say even the 12 months, then the 3 months, then what are you going to do? And then it builds from there. So again, to make it not overwhelming.
I dedicated an entire episode in the last season at the end of it to the Gibbs reflective cycle. It's what I do to help me sit down and review. And just because I'm prepping a talk that I'm giving this month for Dublin City Women in Business about responsible AI use for the crack, I put the Gibbs reflective cycle into ChatGPT and said to ChatGPT, based on all the information I've given you in the last 12 months, using this template, can you write this for me? And actually, it was amazing all that I managed to achieve in the space of 12 months, stuff that I'd forgotten completely about. And it's a wonderful way, I think, of starting off the year. And also, I was quite a bit of crack seeing what ChatGPT came up with as well as part of that. But okay, so you break it down. You've got your 12 months first, then you've got your 90 days. And then what should it look like? Because I think when we say a marketing plan, I think there's so much like that. Like I can ask ChatGPT or Claude or whoever I speak to, what it can become overwhelming. So in your methodology, what should a good, say, 90 days or 12-month marketing plan look like?
I love the ChatGPT, and I think you can easily use it to your advantage. But do the preparation piece first, the bit that you did, right? What does a marketing plan consist of? This is where people kind of get all worked up or all confused about it. So let's back up a little bit. So your 12 months should be a bit more strategic, like where your goals are, your vision, your mission. See if that's all still right. And actually ChatGPT can actually still put in, could help you with that. You could easily put in a quote going, based on all that you know about me, and all that I achieved last year, is my vision still, this is my vision. Is it still on track? Something like that, so we're not like set in stone in terms of your vision and mission, but you're starting off the year kind of going, yeah, this is really what I want to achieve. Then you set up your certain objectives. I want to get 10 new clients in 10 days. Too ambitious. So let's actually change that. So I want to get X amount of clients. I want to bring X amount of revenue. I want to break a new industry. I want to break a new market, things like that. So then you need to set down. So from a 12-month strategic positioning, I think you should really set out your overall objectives, that like when it comes to the 23rd of December, when you're drinking your fine port and smoking your cigars, somewhere nice, and you go, ho, this is what I achieved. And I think that that's where you set those kind of strategic intentions. Once you've set your strategic intentions, that's when you break it down into your, say your 90-day sprints and go, okay, well, what can I achieve in this 90-day period? And remember that marketing is always cumulative. So whatever you do in this 3 months, it'll be a knock-on effect for the next 6 months and the 9 months and then the 12 months. So marketing, once it's done, once you start it, it's a knock-on effect. It's a cumulative. So you may start off with like maybe 3 objectives in the first 3 months, but then you'll have knocked it out of the park, or not, as the case may be, but then you review when it comes to the next 3 months. Also, one thing to consider, which a lot of people don't, is who am I marketing to? And I think that we don't spend enough time focusing on our audience, and that is actually where ChatGPT can really come into its own. It can really help you kind of get into the head of, or whatever, your customers thinking, so that you can actually capture what they're thinking, do words, and then do a campaign on it. So definitely consider your audience and who am I marketing to?
On that, I think it's something that can change, and it's really important that you're keeping your target market to the forefront of what you're doing, because the person that I was working towards getting as a client, say, for my communications coaching business in 2020, it's actually a very different person that I'm aiming to work with in 2026. So my marketing has to reflect that, and my target, my target avatar, my target persona, whatever word or lingo you want to use, I have to be aiming towards that in this marketing plan.
Totally. And actually, that's a good thing to actually go back and review as well. It's when you're reviewing all that's good about last year, then you just kind of review, because things do change. You change, and particularly if you're a small business owner, if you're heading up your business, you change. And that is one thing that actually, and I'm going to go back into communication techniques in a second, but one thing I do want people to be aware of, particularly if they are a solo entrepreneur or the small business owner and they're heading up, they're setting the goals and everything like that. Remember who you are. I know I talk about your you factor, but once you talk about stuff that's really important to you, I love marketing, you love communications. It's so obvious. It just kind of just comes out of you. And I think that once you do that and you're doing things and you're marketing or communication, you're communicating that out, that's huge. That's an energetic shift that people can pick up on straight away. You can always know, a kidder always knows a kidder, so, but also somebody who can see who they really are, and the passion that they have, and the knowledge and the experience, that also comes through. So you have to be aware of what you want to do. So if I kind of bring that kind of full circle to, say, your communications plan, in your 90-day sprint, what I'd like you to think about is using methods of communication that works to you and works to your advantage and to your strengths. So some people love video, some people don't. Some people love TikTok, some people don't. Some people love writing, some people don't. So whatever you're good at, whatever you really love to do, that's what you need to do, as well as appealing to your target audience. You can see straight away when you see people who are marketing in a way that's not congruent to them. So you're just wasting resources, you're just wasting time, whatever kind of marketing method that people are using or communication method that people are using, people can see straight through it. So just because your competitor or your best friend is doing a marketing communication method doesn't mean say that you have to. You need to do what's right for you.
When it comes to that 90-day sprint, are you breaking it down into, these are the tasks that I need to achieve in that 90 days, and I'm going to plan it out day by day? Or what works for you? What works, do you think, for on the basis of your experience of working with your own clients?
It would depend on the person. So I'm probably not a person that will sit down and write down what needs to be done, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. I'd probably set down 5 or 6 intentions for the week. And then depending on the day, I would then, so I'd set 5 or 6 intentions, say on a Sunday, and then I go, okay, well, what can actually be done during the week? So there's some non-negotiables. Weekly content is a non-negotiable. Weekly email is like a non-negotiable. A couple of thank you cards, non-negotiable. So there are things that have to be done anyway. But it would depend on if I plan to like launch a new offer. So if you're launching a new offer, no matter how small, well, then it's like, how do I build a runway to that? So those questions like that you would need to do. Okay, what's the runway? What's the content connected to that offer that needs to be pushed out in this 90-day sprint? And then out of that, then you can plan it. Some people are planners, and some people who, when I say planners, I mean dot the T's, like cross the T's and dot the I's kind of planners. It depends on how you approach it, but there's one question that I really would like people to kind of keep remembering. So you've got like your strategic goals, you've got your 90-day sprints. Then you have to ask yourself whether you plan meticulously or can keep it open-ended. Is the question that I always kind of ask myself is, does this support what I'm trying to achieve?
Yeah.
Even like the strategic marketing direction, I have it up here on my wall. You can probably see me looking over there. So I have it like, does this support the life I'm trying to create? So that's what I kind of think about in terms of like, my overall strategic view. And then sometimes when I think about like on a daily basis, you got, that feeling of overwhelm, going, oh my God, I don't know what to do. None of it's working. This is crap. Oh my God, what am I going to do? And then I just kind of take a breath and I go, okay, does this support the life I'm trying to create? Does this support the task I'm trying to create? Does this achieve like, the objective of trying to launch a new podcast, say, for example, and then if it doesn't, well, then it doesn't. And then you just kind of, you reconcile with it and go, why am I doing what I'm doing? We're so used to comparing ourselves to other people,
Oh, yeah.
and what other people are doing, aren't we? I mean, and that's one thing that if in 2026, if there's one thing I could say is just kind of just do more you. Don't compare yourself to like, what other people are doing. Because once you compare yourself to other people, then you just get yourself into knots. It's not supporting the life that you want to create for yourself, or the business you want to create for yourself, or the offer that you want to create for yourself. If you try to have that in the back of your mind when it comes to planning, it really does help.
What you've made me think about is a podcast that I used to host and present called Ireland Creates. Now, that was a passion project because I love storytelling. And don't get me wrong, I love the famous Irish storytellers, the historical figures that are now long deceased. But I wanted in that podcast to celebrate the storytellers that are alive and well and are working away as professional storytellers in a variety of mediums throughout the island. And I was doing that for about 2 years. But then someone had, at that point, that question was raised. And I was like, hang on a second. I'm using my media experience and my media expertise in presenting. And I love doing this. But it's not promoting me as a communications or media coach. It's not supporting the life that I want to achieve. This is a hobby. But it's taking too much time and it's not benefiting me really. So I had to pull things back and go, okay, do you know what? Actually, what I need to do is get over that imposter syndrome and launch a podcast about communications coaching effectively so that I can actually market myself. So I think it's something that it's such a valuable question. And I think sometimes in Ireland, when we hear the big questions like, does this support this life that I'm trying to achieve? We can be a bit cynical. Oh, that's for the Yanks. They have those lofty ambitions. That's not really what we do here. But you know what? It's what we need to do to really make our businesses grow.
Yeah, and definitely help our businesses grow. But Aisling, you probably would be in a position now where you could actually take up that podcast now and have it as a hobby now that probably wouldn't take as much time and could actually fulfill your soul a little bit, which would actually propel you a little bit more. I'm just using that as an example that, you could propel you a little bit more, or you could actually decide, what, there's a book in there, or there's something that you could do on the side, or a side hustle. So that's where, like, if it fulfills you that way, then in terms of the legacy that you're creating and all the rest. Now, I know that's probably more deeper than 2026 marketing planning. And it's a good question for you to kind of go, actually, is it something that I'd like to revisit or not, as the case may be? Everything happens, I think, for a reason. There's a time for everything, a season for everything. And sometimes, and that's another thing when it comes to marketing planning, even throughout the year, if you can remember, is that sometimes things go wrong and they go wrong for a reason. we may not know the reason at the time, but it'll all kind of come clear. It's just actually to take the data, take the information, and then reuse it and actually make a better decision than the next time.
Talk to me about reactive marketing, in that I know a lot of people, when they are, particularly if you're in a small business or a solo operator, and like that comparison analysis piece that you mentioned a little bit earlier, you could see perhaps your competitor in your region all of a sudden blowing up on TikTok and feel like, oh, I have to jump on that trend because sure, it worked for them. And then it becomes really, I don't know how to do, and I have to do this, that, and the other. I know we need to keep abreast of trends and what is working and helping perhaps in our marketing niche. But how do we balance that with, do you know what? I just need to keep going with this as well. And this is my plan and I need to stick to it for a while to see the benefits of it.
Yeah, there's nothing as worse as a competitor blowing up like that. And you're like, oh, I say that all the time. And so, yeah, I get that for sure. But like, I'm just going to bring it back to, that's one piece. Again, you kind of have to, like, run in your own lane, right? So I'm going to bring it back to, which is something I haven't talked about, but like in terms of communications, there's kind of 3 levels of communications. There's earned media, paid media, and owned media. And so the guy that's kind of the competitor that's blowing up in TikTok could actually just be a trend, and it could just be that one instance, and they are going to, like, run on that for a little while. But if you have a selection of tools, selection of methods, I suppose, marketing methods within like earned, paid, and owned media, well, then you're going to be a little bit more protected from that one viral video or 2 viral videos that the person on TikTok has done. To answer your question, you do need to stay abreast of trends, 100%. But I always kind of like to say, that trends kind of come and go, but like the classics will always stay the same. Yeah. So if you're sticking to key marketing principles of, like, not necessarily just using one method of communication, i.e. TikTok videos, then you'd be more insulated to changes in your environment. If you're doing more, like, within, say, paid media, you're doing something on your own owned media and then earned media. That way, then, for those trends that kind of take off, and you can enjoy them and do them if you enjoy them, but if you don't enjoy them, then don't do them. But then you'll be a bit more insulated. So marketing principles and the key marketing principles of, like, who you're marketing to, who your target audience is, what you're saying to them, like, with the words, how you're saying it to them, and then just staying, like, in your own, not in your own lane, but like, staying true to yourself. Then I think that'll be a better use of your time than going, holy moly, I'm going to have to go on TikTok and actually do a similar video.
It's very tempting to want to copy what your competitor is doing. But the other thing is, if you do it in that way, you will look like you're copying your competitor as well. So you're better off coming up with your own thing and, and going for it, and within your own comfort zone of what's suitable and appropriate for your particular business. I want to talk to you as well about repetition in your marketing plan, because when I'm working with clients, the one thing that seems to surprise them is when I ask them how frequently they are reminding their target audience of what they offer. Because I think sometimes when we're in our own bubble, we know what we do. We know what we're good at. We know why our services work so well. Perhaps we don't feel so confident about communicating that, and that's where the likes of yourself and myself come in. But also, we forget that not everybody knows us as well as we do and knows how expert we are in that area, and that we do need to repeat that.
Oh, 100%. There's a lot of times I'll talk to people too, and they'll say, oh, couldn't be saying that. So I said that last week. I'm like, you need to keep saying it. You need to keep saying it, because it's actually how people will resonate with you. Like, I'll say something like, regularly, you might hear me say before, we need to attract and repel. We need to attract the right people in the same quantity that we repel the wrong people. So there's certain phrases that you say over and over again, and that's phrases. But also you need to remind people, because people forget. I mean, look, you know this, Aisling, I'm going to say it to you, but like, we're all tuned into radio, what's in it for me. And I say it regularly when I give you talks and stuff, but we are. I mean, like, there's going to be people listening to this that's going to say, oh my God, that's great advice. But then straight away, their mind goes straight into how they can apply it to themselves. Or I've said something or you've said something that will trigger something differently. And they're like, off in another tangent. And then that's when we have to say, if you're multitasking, come on back to me, because that way then, so people are all tuned into their own way of thinking, their own life. And really what you need to do as a marketer or as a business owner is you need to say, listen, raise your hand and say, this is how I can help you. This is how I can help you. This is how I can help transform your life. This is how I'm the solution. You have a problem. I'm the solution. And then so you can only do it by repetition all the time.
And you and I are doing this quite a while now. And that doesn't necessarily mean that it's easy for us to do it either. Just for anybody listening who's feeling a bit, doubtful about themselves. Like, I've worked in broadcast media now for 2 decades. I still get nervous before I go on air. I still hate promoting myself, but I know it's what I have to do in order to succeed in my own life, to get to where I want to be.
It doesn't look like that that you get nervous, because you're just like, but what I do think about you, Aisling, is that I think that everything that you do to promote yourself is all in line with who you are. The colors that you use, the brands that you use, the smile, everything that you do, like online, on TV. We've seen you on the TV. I haven't seen you in the classroom yet. I've seen you on stage. Everything that you do to promote yourself is in line with who you are. So I think that's important, because then people get to see that.
Now, Denise, for our followers on YouTube, we always like to give them some a little bit of bonus content. And you have mentioned earlier in this conversation the Fay way, because you are, of course, Denise Fay of Achieve Marketing. So, in a nutshell, now I know when you work with your clients, you go into depth on this. But in a nutshell, for our followers, what is the Fay way?
Well, the Fay way is a 6-stage marketing plan. So it goes from everything that we've talked about. I know we kind of talked around it. So we start off with Fay, we start off with foundations, and then we talk about audience, who your target audience is. Then we spend a little bit of time talking about your marketing message, and your marketing message is important, particularly when we talk about you and what you do. We talked a little bit about that. Then we talk about the words that you use, and ChatGPT can be really useful for that, but when done in the right way. Then, and only then, when we've got the 4 stages, that we bring into the attraction, how you get clients using the 3 methods of earned, paid, and owned media. And then why, the last why, is yield. You reap what you sow, and then you look at the data, and then you do it all over again. So marketing is circular, and that's the Fay way.
And that is the wonderful Denise Fay. And now I'm going to go off camera for 1 second, because I had this on my desk, but I put it slightly out of arm's reach. But if you want to find out more about Denise Fay and you're interested in her tips when it comes to using AI, you can check out her marketing as well. And Marketing Made Easier with ChatGPT by Denise Fay is available from Amazon, Denise?
Yep.
So please do pick up your copy of that. Denise Fay, thank you so much for joining us on Cut Through the Noise today. If listeners would like to find out more about you and the work that you do, where's the best place to find you?
Probably Denise Fay over at LinkedIn for the moment. Yeah.
And best wishes for 2026 to you.
Thanks, Aisling.
I'm afraid that is all we have time for on this week's episode of Cut Through the Noise. I hope you found the conversation between myself and Denise helpful, because I do feel that overwhelm as well. Like, 12 months is a lot of time to plan for. And for my own practice, I like to break the whole year in 2. So Denise plans by 12 months. I plan by 6 months. So for me, there's 2 new years. There's the new year in January, and then the new year again in June. And then I break that down in half again. And it just, for me, makes it that bit more doable. So when I'm planning, I do, like Denise mentioned, the 90-day sprints. It just seems more tangible, less overwhelming, and I have a clear idea of what's coming up in the next 90 days, so I can plan that, and then by doing that, it frees up the headspace to look ahead to the remainder of the year, and that's how I like to approach it. But of course, if you'd like help with that, because I know, particularly if you are a solopreneur or you're running a small business, marketing and communications can be the poor relation of your time and attention. And that's exactly why I help business owners just like you in my monthly communications mastermind. So basically, the idea is we meet the first week of the month for 90 minutes in an early morning call. We plan it all out. We vent all the problems that we might have been facing and the stresses. And as a group, we figure out how we're going to approach it. And of course, I bring in my expertise as a communications and media coach who's worked in the media industry now for just over 2 decades. And if that's something that you think might be for you, well, then drop me an email, hello@thecommunicationscoach.ie. We can book a call and I can chat to you there and then, and we can sort it all out for you. So that's the Clarity Collective, a monthly communications group mastermind where we help you tackle your communications, prioritize it so that 2026 is the year that you and your company will thrive. Thank you for listening to this episode of Cut Through the Noise. Cut Through the Noise is designed to help you think differently about communications and marketing with a view to giving you practical insights to really help you immediately. And I do hope that we do that in each and every episode. If you enjoy what we do here on the podcast, regardless of how you access us, whether it's on YouTube or Spotify or Apple Podcasts, please do write a comment beneath the show. Share it with colleagues, perhaps include it in a newsletter that you put out each and every week. Please do share the word, because the more you do that, the more people get to know about Cut Through the Noise. And that's how you can be a good listener, because the podcast is, of course, free. And a lot of work goes into creating podcasts. And I would encourage you to do that for any podcast, in fact, that you enjoy listening to on a regular basis. Like, support the creators. It's generally speaking a small team effort, and a comment, a review, a 5-star rating, it is all really appreciated. So, make it a year where you are showing your appreciation for those of us who create content that I hope you enjoy. Thank you for listening to today's episode. It's a noisy world, so clear, confident and authentic communication is what would allow you stand out in the sea of sameness and cut through the noise.